Ubisoft has fucked up big time. And it's not for the reasons that you might think. Now, I have so far not made any videos about this because honestly the discourse has been absolutely toxic and stupid. If I really need something stupid and toxic, I mean, I have myself, so I don't really need to get into that. But recently, the whole apology that Ubisoft put out, that made me realize that I should make a video about this because it's been a long time coming. And that's this video. And so there are some things I want to get out of the way before I get on with it. First of them being about the channel. This is generally not where I record stuff. You might look at the background and notice that. That's because I have now moved cities and I'm in a completely different city now. I have finally got functional internet. It works. And so I will be streaming from tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And another thing that I wanted to clear up immediately is that if you're some grifter or a rage baiter looking at this for validation, that's not this video. So I guess just leave a dislike and go away. And if you genuinely do want to know what this discourse is all about and what the problems is all about and how Ubisoft fucked up, then well, continue watching the video. And if you do like it, like the video. And if you have any disagreements or anything you wanted to add to it, the comment section is always available to you. I read most comments. Actually, I read all the comments because there are never any comments. So yeah, do feel free to comment down below. I'll interact with you in the comments. Now, why did Ubisoft fuck up? I feel Ubisoft fucked up because Ubisoft fundamentally does not understand what Assassin's Creed is about. I know it's an odd statement to make considering that they make the games, but given their marketing, I truly think that Ubisoft doesn't understand the franchise they have in their hands. Because the first and foremost, like they did say in their apology that this is historic fiction, which is accurate. Assassin's Creed always has been historic fiction. When I see people talk about, oh, how this is woke revisionism, you're putting a black guy in Japan, and I'm like, are you new to the franchise? Because that's always been the case. And I'll explain my point literally right now. So let's talk about the historic revisionism. In the very first game, Assassin's Creed 1, when Desmond is talking to Warren Vidic, he's the one who indicates that history as we know it is not complete because history obviously has its biases. Whoever is writing it, whoever actually ends up interpreting what was written, eventually biases will creep in, and that does affect our history. That is true for our world. What he proposed is a system where you can view the memories of your ancestors through the device called Animus, and so there can be no lies. Now, that's not entirely accurate. There are still nuances in that, but that does sort of paint this picture where the history that we know, like in our world, is not the entire history. That's what the franchise is saying. The entire crux of the franchise depends on this very statement. This is what sets up the whole franchise. This franchise is about history that is fictionalized, but also sort of fits into our own history. It's happening in the background, something insignificant to us, but it did happen according to them. So Assassin's Creed, literally from the very beginning, has always been about historical fiction. It has always been about historical revisionism, because the very first thing that happens in the historical narrative, the Knights Templars and the Hashashins basically meeting, that never happened. As far as I know, that actually did not happen in our history. So the very first thing that they show is not historically accurate. And I swear, if there is another guy who ever tells me that they removed the crossbow because they wanted to be historically accurate, I'm going to lose my mind. Because that's not accurate. That's not true. That's not the reason why they removed the crossbow. That has been a myth that has been going on with the Assassin's Creed for a while now. It's not true. But that, besides the point, the thing that I wanted to set up here is that Assassin's Creed is a lot more than the history that you see in these games. The history in these games are supposed to be a backdrop. So now then, if it is historical fiction, then why is it that the discourse actually reached this level? Why is it that Ubisoft had to put out an apology? That's because it is Ubisoft's own fault. And now many people might say that no, these are just racist people being idiots, and also, basically just grifters on Twitter and YouTube doing their stuff, which is fine. I mean, that's how Twitter and YouTube work, so I can't really blame them for that. Hey, if you are playing the game, play the game. It's your business, not mine. But my point is, It is entirely on Ubisoft, because that's the messaging that Ubisoft cared for in their own interviews. And this is not even a new thing. This didn't just happen with Shadows. This happened with Valhalla as well. This happened with Odyssey. They have focused so much on the history that they completely forgot that this franchise is not that at all. This franchise has got nothing to do with history. This franchise uses history as a playground. And that's not me saying it. That was literally a tagline for this franchise. History is our playground was a tagline for Assassin's Creed for a while. This is not me saying it. So when Ubisoft themselves come and say that, oh, we made this entirely historically accurate everything, they're lying, because that's not what the franchise is about. That's not what the games are about at all. And when you say that, you are generating false expectations from people. And not just that, you are giving people the opportunity to question you on your shit. Because while you are not actively trying to, revise history, that's what the franchise is doing. That's what the story of the franchise is about. You are the one who gave out the message that this is accurate when this is clearly not. Now, is Yasuke a Japanese samurai? I'm not going to get into that, because there are many, many more talented and scholarly people who actually know more about this than I ever will, because it would require me to go out and study about these things, and I'm terrible at studying. I say that as I'm trying to pursue a PhD, so good luck to me. But my point being, there are smarter people than me who can answer it better for you. But my point is, it does not matter for Assassin's Creed. For Assassin's Creed, Yasuke is the perfect protagonist, because he is a kind of a blank slate who has interacted with quite a few historical figures. He is perfect for Assassin's Creed. Now, people have said, why make him the protagonist and not another character in the game, a character who you interact with? Now, I would say, yes, that is a possibility. You could have done that. But the fact that they chose him as a protagonist, honestly, still doesn't really change much. It's still within the realms of possibility in Assassin's Creed. And having a fish out of water story is also a norm for Assassin's Creed. Now, I've seen a lot of people say that, oh, usually Assassin's Creed has, the guy who actually belongs to that place be the protagonist. That's not always true either. Because if you actually look throughout the series of Assassin's Creed, there have been many examples where basically the setting is someplace completely different, but the character is from somewhere completely different. For example, let's forget everything else. Let's focus on the Ezio trilogy. In Ezio trilogy, the first two games are obviously set in Italy, and it makes sense that an Italian guy is obviously the protagonist there. But the third game is set in Turkey, in Istanbul. And even the other section is in Cappadocia. So none of the places where Ezio belongs from. So this is not the first time the franchise has done this. The fish out of water narrative works well with Assassin's Creed because it means that our own character is discovering things as we are discovering things. So it works in the narrative aspect for Assassin's Creed. Now, does that mean it always has to be there? No. You can have protagonists that are from the same place. You can have protagonists that have come from a very different land. Another example would be Edward Kenway. Now, Edward Kenway had reasons to be in the Caribbean because at that point there was some really huge presence from, the English, the French, the Spanish. They were all present in the Caribbean region. They were fighting there. And so it makes sense for them to be there, and it makes sense for Edward to be there, first as a privateer, then as a pirate, because that was genuinely something that happened at that time. But that doesn't mean he is from the Caribbean. He is Welsh, as far as I can recall. I'm pretty sure he's Welsh. So he's also not from the Caribbean. Then we have Then we had Syndicate, where the characters are from England, France. Arno was from France. The next example would be obviously Valhalla, because in Valhalla, if you remember, Eivor is not from England. She starts off in Norway. So Eivor herself is an outsider in England who is trying to gain a foothold, trying to make sure that her community can survive there. So again, these stories are not out of the ordinary for Assassin's Creed. They help you give sort of a different perspective to this series. Sometimes you need to be from a different place to have that sort of perspective. If anything, I think Shadows is doing something really interesting, because not only do they have this sort of, debatable character who we don't really know much about in Yasuke, they also have Naoe. Is she called Naoe? Again, I'll get the pronunciations right when I start playing the game. Before that, my pronunciations are off because I don't know how to say their names. I still haven't learned it. That's my bad. But anyway, my point being, we do have two different perspectives here. We do have two different people. Now, is the writing going to be any good? I don't know, because from the past experiences I've had from Ubisoft Quebec products, I have to believe that my experiences will not be good because it hasn't been good thus far. So that's another thing that I'm kind of mad about with this whole dumbass discourse that's going on both Twitter and YouTube. I can't even criticize the game. If the game comes out and the writing is just as shitty as Syndicate or Odyssey, I can't say anything about it, because if I say anything bad, I'm racist. That sucks. I don't want to be in that group. I'm not in that group. That's besides the point. Like, our discourse should be focused on what the franchise is and the story that they are trying to tell within the confines of this franchise. People treating it as a historic simulator is why Assassin's Creed has ended up in the ditch that it is today. It is not a historical simulator. The tagline "history is our playground" very much is what describes Assassin's Creed. It is a fiction based on history. That's why the locations might be good. The characters in the game might represent the characters in our real history. For example, Leonardo da Vinci. I'm pretty sure he didn't actually build any of those machines. He had those designs, but many of those designs were said to be impractical, but in the game they work just fine. In fact, they work really, really well. And in fact, Cesare Borgia wanted him to make actual machines based on those designs. None of that shit happened in our real history. As far as I can recall, you can correct me in the comment section down below. I don't know if you know this, but I'm pretty sure that Pope Rodrigo Borgia did not create clones of himself to fight some Italian guy. I don't know real history, but I'm pretty sure that didn't happen. Also, another thing that didn't happen is of François Germain. Again, it's French. I can't pronounce French. So the antagonist of Assassin's Creed Unity, the dude basically was a nobody. Okay, not a nobody. He did have history behind him, but in general, because he was such a mysterious character and he sort of his death wasn't properly how do I put this, written properly, or rather it wasn't really archived in history, that made him the perfect antagonist, because you can take him, write stories about him that aren't necessarily true, but that fits into this franchise really well. Because it's the Templars that have hidden the story of François Germain, because he was a Templar and he was a sage. It makes sense in that context. But that's what Assassin's Creed has always been about. This is not even up for questioning. And so with this whole discourse going on, the only thing I can think of is, honestly, this is on Ubisoft. They have fucked up because they have forgotten how to define this franchise. This franchise is not about history. If they wanted to have a franchise about history, they should have spun it off into a different franchise and made money off it. Make a mythological based, history based franchise, make some money off it. They tried to do it with Immortals Phoenix Rising, but Immortals Phoenix Rising is not Assassin's Creed. It doesn't have the same sort of, I don't know, same vibes, same settings, things like that. It was more cartoonish, not realistic. I mean, not Assassin's Creed is not really realistic, but you get what I'm trying to say here. So that is entirely on Ubisoft. If you try to cram in too many different things into this one franchise and make it for everyone, then most people are not going to understand what the franchise is about. Then if you try to do something that actually the fans of the franchise will understand why, most other people won't. And that is exactly the problem with Assassin's Creed Shadows. Assassin's Creed Shadows, the things that it is doing is not wrong. It makes absolute sense in the context of the franchise. But most people don't get that because most people don't care about the franchise. All they care about is the historical stuff where they can go up and stab people and stuff like that. That's all they care about, and that's fine. Again, that is on Ubisoft. You targeted those people. So you can't just come out now and issue an apology saying that, oh, but this is historical fiction. No, you conveniently ignored that when you were marketing the game. That is entirely on you. Anyway, that's all what I had to say. If you have anything to add, again, the comment section is down below. If you liked it, then press the like button. If you disliked it, then dislike it. And, subscribe if you want to subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. And all that said, I will leave you guys in peace. Bye.